This session brought to you by Odyssey Games for pre-orders and sealed product, CCG Prime for tons of singles and supplies, Cardo Doko for international rulers looking for products, and fowlibrary.com for articles and wonderful deck lists, as well as our guest lecturer members King Pearlshine, Vite Ramen, Mognite, and Darren Noblock. Class is in session. Hey there, rulers. Welcome back after a long week of Force of Will to your favorite ever live Force of Will podcast. It's Office Hours, featuring myself, TMO73, and I am joined as always by Paul Reisman. Hi, Paul.
I'm a cat dad.
Cat Dad.
Cat dad.
We have all kinds of cool stuff to talk about today, including pretty much the big ban list is the thing to talk about today. But before we get into that, the new set did just drop, so you can go ahead and still get boxes ordered, I think, through Odyssey Games. You can check them out in the link in below. Also, I have been told by CCG Prime that on their website, CCG Prime, they have now listed singles, specifically that they have... so they have stuff on TCG Player, but they've also listed everything on their website. Specifically that they have a Grim Cluster, Crimson Moon Battleground, and all the small sets. So like starters, promos, Rebirth of Legend, stuff that's like tiny sets. And all of them are currently 15% off through the end of July. So 2 months of single sales on Crimson Moon Battleground and all this other stuff, apparently, according to Dan with CCG Prime. So check those out if you're looking for singles to finish out some stuff. Pretty neat. Specifically the singles that they have on their website. So if you're looking for little reds, there you go. If you like what we do and want to consider supporting us, the channel financially, you can consider clicking that join button down below to get access to be us as a member and do all kinds of cool stuff like that. You can also consider just subscribing and sharing the channel. That always is helpful, and we appreciate you just being here to kind of chat with us. And then lastly, in terms of things to talk about for upcoming, we have the GP this coming weekend that there's a link in the description to go sign up for. It's the last GP in the United States before Worlds. But we also have information in the description about how to sign up for our June FowFest fundraiser on June 17th. It is a one-day event that gets you access to prize wall points for FowFest later this year, and the top 8 walk away with this sick Hyde playmat that is currently on the screen. Absolutely sick. It is the pink spider mat. Absolutely gorgeous. Going to be great. Definitely consider signing up for that mat. It's going to be dope. And the money from that goes to help fund FowFest in terms of really cool pricing and stuff. Okay. I think that's all the announcements. Yes?
Yes.
Check. Let's get into the news. A ban list dropped. Did you know? Did you hear that?
What?
Did you hear that a ban list dropped?
Banlist dropped?
Yeah, we have a new ban list. It happened this past week. We thought it was going to be a video, and it was a video. But then the ban list itself dropped an hour and a half before then via text.
Yeah, I know. They only put a Rise Heart to 1. It sucks. It's a bad list.
Yeah, it's really rough. They also patched... They patched sprinting glitch, and then they unfortunately we can't do sprinting glitch anymore, which is really, really sad. So it's really, really sad. But I'm sure we'll discover some.
Send gears. They don't have a send gears anymore.
Yeah, no,
unfortunate.
Gone. If you can't tell, Paul and I have been playing an absolute ton of Tears of the Kingdom, same as anybody. So we were talking before the show about how Nintendo patched some of the glitches and have discovered new ones, but also the ban list kind of did the same thing. So. Humor.
Lightning Temple boss. Burn that thing with fire. Just burn it.
Cool. So we are going to talk about. Okay, perfect. Thank you, CCG Prime. So we're going to talk about this list specifically, and kind of our thoughts about it going into the list, as well as going into events and going into the world format. So first off, just to kind of things what they talked about is they made an announcement that they really have enjoyed the diversity of decks that are being played, the diversity of rulers that are being played, but did notice that there were a lot of pretty consistent little mini engines being utilized in a lot of pieces, and they really want worlds to be as diverse as possible. So they did a lot of things. I essentially said this list kind of got rid of the super aggressive, like safe hyper kills and like the free crap that everyone was playing. It was kind of what this list was very clearly designed to do. And they want as many different cards as to be. So they said that was one of the reasons for this huge ban list update, as well as an announcement that post Worlds, the ban list post Worlds won't have any new cards added, but will only have cards taken off. And that moving forward, that's kind of what the Worlds cycle is going to be. The ban list before Worlds will be much heavier handed, and then they'll take cards off the ones following Worlds, which I think is Can we talk about that for a second? Like, that seems almost kind of like, I kind of really like that. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I mean, I kind of like it in the sense that like it's just taking away everything that's familiar. So like people have to actually like engage with the cards more. Um, it would be interesting to like I'm more interested generally about like what's going to come off in August.
Yeah.
Because I'm sitting here like, there's cards that could come off, and I'm thinking about that. But I'm also like, what cards could come off? Like, what
Yeah,
are they thinking?
yeah, I think there's some things in terms of like cards that were already on the ban list that were probably teetering on the edge of coming off or not. And the idea being like, we're just going to add cards here. We're not going to unban stuff. And then we'll do like a sweeping kind of like trim the fat off the ban list. Right. So things like True Blade of Spirits and stuff like that will probably come off. Not True Blade.
Yeah.
Yeah, Greg Grumbler, they went through a reason for every single ban down below the ban list. So if you go to the article and you scroll down, you can see every single one. A fair number of the recent bans will come off. I did watch your video earlier today, Rustin. I'm not so sold on some of the recent bans coming off. I honestly kind of think the ones that happened recently are the ones that make sense. I feel like it's going to be older stuff coming off, in my opinion, but we'll get into that. They did confirm that our Arcana Battle Coliseum does have its own true independent ban list, which is good to finally know. And yeah, that's the list. They're trying to create a Worlds format where they're encouraging creativity and finding of unique deck choices and unique deck engines rather than seeing who can make the best use of the current like best engines, which I think is fun for what Worlds is supposed to be too. So I'm very excited about that. So let's get into it. Yeah? What do you think?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. It's like old school Yu-Gi-Oh hammering list. It's a really hammering list for sure.
Yeah. Reminds me of 2005.
It's pretty heavy. Pretty heavy list. So starting with the ban list, Melfi, Traveling Sorceress, that's our 2-drop, is banned. Tea Party Before the Decisive Duel is banned. Angelic Battle Barrier is banned. Child of the Fire Moon, Sprinting Steward, Aristella Twin Prince, which keep in mind is a nerf, not a ban, because they specifically say you can still play the Aristella from the starter deck. So it's actually an Aristella nerf that just comes from a ban because you can still use every single mastery card. You can still use every single thing that references Aristella. You just can't have 2 Moon Children. So nerf. Eternal of Engineer, or Engineer of Eternal, Sealed One-Eyed Dragon, Painter's Gears, and Generate Replicant. Just to go down the list, kind of first thoughts in looking at those banned cards, Paul.
My first reaction when I saw some of these things were, okay, Jeremy called Melfi. Tea Party. Battle Barrier, sure. Okay. Shadow of the Fire Moon, I guess. Sprinting Steward, like that writing was on the wall for quite a while. Yeah. Aristella,
especially when they updated the PDF of Arcana Battle Coliseum to ban Sprinting Steward. I was like, oh yeah, if they're banning it in the Singleton format, it's definitely getting banned out of main format.
Absolutely. I saw the Aristella ban, and I was like, whoa. And then when I read the commentary down below, I was like, oh, okay, there's actually, like, you still get to play the other Aristella.
Yeah.
So, cool. I was like, oh, that's really drastic. And then it's like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. Engineer of Eternal, I mean, like, that was also kind of writing on the wall. Sealed One-Eyed Dragon, I was, like, a little split on personally.
That's, like, the one card from this list that I can see coming off in August. Like, not putting money on it coming off, but
right.
Like, I wouldn't be surprised if it came off. Everything else on this list, to be perfectly frank, I mean, maybe you could see Melfi coming off, but also with the other stuff that they've cut here, people were just gonna lean back into Melfi, right? So it's like,
yeah,
like I'm fine with Melfi just being gone.
Well, like, and the thing
Cries at the
this whole
9
list
Chinese
too.
ones that I have in my binder.
So yeah, like I have the 4 promos from China. I have the 4 promos that we got as part of the Ruler League, and then I
Yeah,
had like the regular 4, right?
yeah, cry.
Painter's Gear made sense to me. I'm like, zero cost anything is little worry. Generate replicant also surprised me just a little bit in the sense that um like I got that it was like a good engine, but I did not think that it was like overplayed or like just overpowered in general. But if the
I
company
think
thinks that way,
I think the idea with Generate Replicant is the fact that like Sword of Progression is already a good card just by itself. And so like to give decks that can splash will for Generate Replicant or sorry for will sword to just be like, oh, by the way, when you're already doing this sword thing, you're also fueling a Prisia box. Like to do both things,
yeah,
right? Is kind of just like, no, sword is good enough by itself. You can't do both. If you want to do both, use Prisia, right? Like, which makes sense to me.
yeah,
I understand.
yeah. I mean, I understand it too, especially when they listed it out, and I'm like, sure, that's fine. It wasn't like the problem card that I saw in the format, but it was like, okay. Frankly, the fact that they're even able to find 10 cards, I was kind of a little surprised.
10 cards
Um,
coming off. It was 10
t-
cards
10
slash
cantons,
combinations.
like 10 just straight out banned cards. I was like,
Oh,
I'm a
these
little
yeah, this is
surprised that they were
yeah.
like, all of these are bad and you shouldn't be a part of the format anymore. Um, the combination bans make a whole lot of sense to me, even the ones that are no longer banned.
Yeah.
But some of the
We'll get to
banned, I
those
was
in
like, how do they manage
yeah.
to find all of these cards to ban? It's crazy.
Yeah, we'll get to a couple of that. So there's a ton of interaction opportunities to stop Melfi as my thing from being able to cut her off. Yes, I agree. But I also see like the thought is that like the spirit of hitting Melfi is the spirit of hitting these other things, right? Because they're trying to hit stuff that's will neutral while being card advantaged. Like very clearly in this threat, like Tea Party is a will sync that's not really a will sync. It's like always card and will advantage. Angelic Battle Barrier is free, but also can be card advantage. Melfi Traveling Sorceress is just this incidental will fixing while also being card advantage. Sprinting Steward is free, but also does the crazy things that Sprinting Steward was doing. Engineer of Eternal is the same kind of thing. Like it's will neutral, if not will positive. Or it's not will positive because it can't ever refund you anything, but like will and card advantage positive. Sealed One Eye Dragon is like that's the one where I'm like at least there's like an actual cost to play it, right? Like I'm still going down something. It's not refunding me anything back. Painter's Gears is just free, and then Generate Replicant is kind of what we said. So like the spirit of these hard bans were we're getting rid of some of the most played and easiest to splash will neutral, will positive, card positive things in the meta. And the idea is like if you just cut Tea Party and Engineer of Eternal and Sealed One-Eyed, people were just going to go play Melfi again. Right? Like those same decks were just going to go play Melfi again. So this almost kind of like was proactively hitting the Melfi to say like, no. Find something different. Find something that actually costs you resources now, which I think speaks to that.
What's so interesting too is like a majority of those cards that they're hitting that either are like card neutral or will neutral or just any sort of advantage at all. They're all from like New World Emerges and later. So that it's just kind of wild.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, it's fair.
Yeah.
It's very fair. I think that there's a little bit of growing pain, but like I'm this is the debate of like, do you want to see newer cards versus older cards get banned? And I'm like, I'm fine with new cards getting banned because like they've had their time to be in the environment.
No,
absolutely. Like none of these cards here on the full printed paint list, other than Generate Replicant and Painter's Gears, haven't been around for at least 6 months. You know what I mean? So it's like, you've had your time. It's time for you to go, and that's okay. Again, still crying about the fact that I have 9 untraded Melfi Chinese promos that were going to be used as prizing at FowFest, and now still can, but I have to like decrease the value of them because unless Melfi gets unbanned for some reason, but I don't see that happening. Anyway, the general theme, I like all of these cards in this 10 hit that like theme of what the ban list was, which I think kudos to iSpy for really hitting this theme hard, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes
Absolutely.
it's like you see to almost have. I think that's other something different from our experience of playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Is like sometimes in Yu-Gi-Oh! It's just like this. The theme of this is that we killed this deck, right? Like that's kind of like the thing. But like to have a theme about like we want to instill this to the environment
Yeah.
so clearly is like really nice, and I think shows good depth rather than just we wanted to kill this deck. Um, it's more enjoyable to me when
Yeah.
it's like that. So
Like, and like one of the major differences too, and like I got this from a Yuki Super that I watch because like I just kind of like watching that game burn in real time.
it's
It's
fair.
the sense that like that company doesn't really publish any sort of commentary on where they want the game to go, where it's like where this game with their ban list are clearly communicating like, oh, this is where we want to go, right? Like we don't want to have all of these like we want you to actually pay for the cards that you're playing, um in the sense that we don't want you to just have free crap, right?
Yeah,
So like you actually have to tap a magic stone to get these effects, right?
yeah, for sure.
Um and like that makes the game fun, and it has always
Yeah,
made the game fun.
yeah, for sure. And also 100%. If we had more time between now and Worlds, I absolutely would be recording a one Moonchild Aristella deck list for the channel, and I would show you just how it's just a nerf and the deck is still good. Like the deck is not insane anymore. Like truly sometimes in the hand of a good pilot that deck felt unlosable. Like sometimes I just felt like I couldn't lose. But even with just one Moonchild, I still think that deck is very strong. It's just a lot. It's just a lot. It can't extend itself quite as much as it could before, and it can't be as passive as it could before. It has to find like a sweeter spot of like finding aggression a little bit faster, which is fine, because we did just have a card that came out that turned Charlotte into a 5-cost win condition. There is a card that came out that makes Charlotte a 5-cost. The game is over. I resolved it one time, and you're gonna feel great.
Yeah.
We're just gonna be like, cool. There's 8,000 damage worth of pressure on board. Flash in Charlotte, pay 3 to awaken the end of the false savior, targeting one of your dudes. 8 grand to you. Cool. The game's over. Wee. Yeah.
Ugh.
Here are free spells with the Brad Resonator. Yeah, but then you're playing the Brad Resonator. It's fine because they also hit the Brad Resonator coming to your hand super fast. Anyway, that's you. That's you going card advantage negative, by the way, just in terms of
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
So no longer in the combination ban list. Gerda plus Kilo Fossil Girl. I mean, yeah, it lets you get your ice counters off really fast, but like she has other ways to do it, so like that's never going to see play anyway. Lorite plus Persephone. This is interesting to me because we never got to see the two of them together at the same time. Like they never even got a chance to be on the active at the same time, right? So that's pretty neat. It gives you kind of a choice between Killua and Lorite now, because I don't think you're going to play Persephone plus Killua plus Lorites. That just seems like way too much. But like that's cool for like choice, especially since you could do like activate abilities versus you like choose activate or automatic versus choose automatic and destruction of additions. You can kind of like pick the choice, which I think is kind of neat there.
Absolutely.
Selective decap and painter's gears. That makes sense because painter's gears is banned. Phantasmal Ascendant and Red Wine and Bread unbanned. Let Order and Yarly have some fun. Fine. Let Order and Yarly and Resonance decks have a little bit of fun. Sure, I'm for it. That's fine. We have so much more addition hate now that I'm like, yeah, it's fine. Back to Nature and Painter's Gears, also because Painter's Gears is banned. Child of the Light Moon and Child of the Fire Moon, because Fire Moon's banned. Dragon of Solari and Chronopons. They had to do that if they wanted aggro Ides to be a deck that you can remotely play now, because Chromavore is dead in the ground. You lost Painter's Gears. Chromavore is expensive. Painter's Gears is what made Chromavore such a threat, and without Painter's Gears, Chromavore gets a lot worse. So giving Ides back Dragon plus Pawns is fine to me.
I think you probably still play a couple in the event that like you open it versus like a Homeland Cocoon ruler, right? Because if they play wall, all of a sudden it's a 2-drop draw two.
Yeah, we were already kind of like as Aristella players or like Homeland players, just not grabbing a cocoon against Ainz, right? So like this makes Chromivore even feel worse because like they're just gonna keep doing that against you anyway, and now
Yeah,
Chromivore is gonna be insanely hard to discount, and you're like, I don't, but at 4-drop, I'm not playing this card.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
fair enough.
So like that was the hit to like I was talking about. I think aggro Ainz outside of Sprinting Steward needs something else hit with it, and I think hitting Painter's Gears makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you're gonna let him have Dragon of Solari, taking away Painter's Gears makes the most sense to me as like the hit to that deck. I still think it has legs. I still think it's good. I still think Control Ainz got some really cool tools this set, for sure. Especially being able to turn Ainz into like an extra draw every turn, which is kind of neat. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. But yeah, I think those hits to Ainz were appropriate. And then Engineer obviously unbanned with Valchen because it's banned.
Banned.
So these make sense. I do want to kind of talk about. We've had some debate in the community about which was the proper child to ban. Firechild versus Blightchild. I think Firechild is the correct one. Is the correct one to ban. And I'll pose this to the community, and Paul will also hear your thoughts.
Sure.
Child of the Light Moon is infinitely easier to play around and play through because of all the new tools we have that aren't casting spells that people have been using, especially like Ray Asnabel, activate abilities, God Arts, ruler abilities, things like Persephone and Garion. Like there's so many more things that like if you're just prepared for it, you can still like mess with it. Child of the Fire Moon is just like it doubles the exact type of it, like can only be answered in certain kinds of ways, and it forces you to have double answer, which is like almost too good for these like early combo decks. And again, the theming of this list was hyper safe, hype early kills, and hyper early free stuff combo decks are the things that we want to trim out of the environment. And more of those decks were using Fire Moonchild to be successful and protected than Lightchild. So I think that's why they went with. I think that's why they went with Firechild, and I think that's why it was the correct hit. Personally,
Yeah. Well, I mean, like even since their release, Lightchild and Firechild have always been a little bit of a concern in terms of like player agency, right? So if I can't interact with your stuff because you have a God's Art that's free that says you can't interact with my stuff, that feels bad. Lightchild says you get one card, but then you don't get to play anything else the rest of the turn, which also feels bad. But it's kind of like what you said, like we're getting more activate abilities into the game. Plus you can chase the silence, which historically in the game, silences have not been nearly as problematic as cards that cancel and cancel efficiently or prevent canceling. So, I mean, at the end of the day, I agree with it. It was just like, huh. I've seen a lot of Lightchild, and I've also not seen people play Redchild over Whitechild in the last few months. So that's why it's a little surprising.
sure, that's fair.
But like, so like on like historically, it didn't make any sense to me until it was like, oh, we have these additional tools now, which is totally fine.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, but then again, they stopped Angelic Battle Barrier too. Because
I think it's because that card is just like, again, this feels to me like it's one of those pieces of like, these are cards that are being played everywhere and like you can't mess with, as opposed to like Child of the Light Moon is not in every deck. It's not going to be used in every deck, and you also can kind of like see it coming a little bit, so you can like better prepare for it.
You can like always account for it because you can not draw ABB, right? But you always have Lightchild, and so like having multiple potential silences and ABB It makes sense to get rid of those instead
They made
of
the discussion that ABB was hitting Severing Wind's level of playability, which I think is a fair argument to make
yeah.
to hit it. It was becoming like so necessary to at least play 2 to 3 in almost everything just to be safe from those like hyper aggressive kills, or like have some
Mhm.
safety, that it was reaching Severing Wind's level of impact, and so not as bad as Severing by any means, but like enough that I'm like, okay, yeah, no, that's fair.
Yeah.
Got a message here real quick.
Fear Machina control. I see you, Dan. I see you.
Um, so yeah, that's and then the combination ban list. Invitation to Valhalla plus Brad, Amnesia Immortal. I understand it. I'm mad. That's the only ban
You're
on this
mad?
list that I'm. That's the only ban on this list that I was like, yeah, but I'm mad about it. You know what I mean? Because like we talked about Olivia doing it like OTK style, like the first
Yeah.
turn or like turn 0. We talked about it, but really this is a tool that anybody could use, and it does like getting all 4 of your brats to your hand immediately that fast in the game does suddenly open up a crap ton of stuff for you to be able to do stuff with it. So it makes sense to me that they got rid of it, just to not have that be a problem. Sad.
Well, it's
This is one of
because
those
you
things where I
talked
wish
about it, and
it's my fault. I accept the blame.
you got excited about Olivia. That's just not allowed according to the universe. It's like it's the
Yeah,
same
for
rule
sure.
where like I can't be at the place that you're at before you. It's like
Yeah, no.
that. If you get excited
Yeah,
about Olivia, we can't
then
have
it's a
that.
problem. Yeah, it's a problem. Yeah. No, it does feel like like that hit is one where I would have preferred to us like get to see it for 3 months. You know what I mean? Like give it 3 months and then see and then make the decision. But this is also, to be honest, to be fair, of the things on this list, this is the thing that I could see coming off the list in August.
Sure.
Right? I could very easily see that combination coming off in August. That almost like it feels very much like we didn't want Worlds to be nothing but who could invitation faster. So we're hitting it now. So
We don't need Olivia everywhere.
yeah, for sure. Um
AG specifically is like, we can't have Olivia everywhere, guys. I know
Shrine of
I
the
probably have no voice in the banning process. I just
Shrine of
want
the
to let you know.
Dragonoids. Yeah, for sure. Can't be everywhere. Shrine of the Dragonoids plus Blade Dance makes a whole lot of sense to me, because of the fact that it's just like all fire sources get pumped, and the fact that Blade Dance copies itself into a million different spells. So like
Hmm.
one Shrine of the Dragonoid pump, if not 2, because like before recover tap, suddenly makes pay 1 will, tap 4 high armaments, deal 3,200 to your opponent at instant speed.
Feels
It's like,
bad.
yeah, no, I don't want that in the environment. So like that's okay. That's okay for me to hit. That makes sense. Welser plus Sword of Progression. Yep, I see that for sure. It's like if you want to play a Sword of Progression deck that's like abusing Sword of Progression a lot, go play Olga. Welser got just so much insane value out of that card, and
Oh
it
yeah.
was seeing some competitive success, like, you know what I mean. So it's not like it wasn't like dominating everything, but it was seeing some successful like making waves. So it makes sense to me that they hit that one just to get it out of the way. Shrine plus Dance had to happen, yeah, for sure, absolutely. Like it a very apt hyper hit, like out the gate hit for Blade Dance for sure.
Absolutely.
Um, Witch of the Fallen King, and then we have the ones that I are why this is the hot button topic. Phantasmal Ascendant was also a card that everyone thought was going to get banned. It instead received 2 combination bans, with Magic Stone Research Institute and Witch of the Fallen Kingdom. But it doesn't have. Strangely enough, it didn't hit the 3-strike rule of Phantasmal Ascendant plus Red, White, and Bread because they took it off. Oh, no, Magic Stone Dance of Chaos is just hard banned, right?
No, it's banned with ISIS.
Or sorry, not Dance of Chaos. The 1-drop spell. That's just hard banned, right?
Oh, Invitation, I think. Yeah. Magic
Gotta
Stone
remember what that.
Invitation or something like that. Yeah, that card is real broken. Sudden manifestation of power.
Sudden manifestation of power. That's what it is. Yeah, I was like, wait a minute. So there was almost a world where Phantasmal Ascendant was going to have 3 combination bans at the same time, at which point in time you go, just ban the card.
Yeah.
But they saved it by unbanning it with red, white, and red. So it's like, oh, okay.
No, we want this card.
Yeah, for sure. But anyway, so yeah, sudden manifestation of power. So it almost had 3 combination bans at the same time. It just only it lost 1 and added 2 more. So no, it didn't hit the 3. Didn't hit the 3 strikes. It just lost a strike and then gained 2 more.
Like, actually, we thought about it. We'll give you 1 back.
Yeah,
and give you 2 more.
He did the like court mandated where you could avoid getting points on your license one time by sitting in a class. So Phantasmal Ascendant did that, got red, white, and red black, and then to celebrate immediately drove off a cliff with with Institute.
That's so specific.
And Black Witch.
What a specific example. Oh my gosh.
Oh, is it banned with Eclipse Stone? Magic Stone of the Eclipse? Oh, that's true. It is. It has 3 strikes. Now we need to get rid of the card. Anyway, it was banned with Magic Stone Research Institute and Witch of the Fallen Kingdom, which I think it makes perfect sense if you're going to combo ban it, because those 2 things are the ways that Phantasmal Ascendant was being most abused to competitive success, right? It was like Phantasmal Ascendant to like quickly get to the Witch train, as opposed to like having to call stone naturally, or Phantasmal Ascendant to get a free stone to then sack that stone for a permanent stone with Magic Stone Research Institute and make Phantasmal Ascendant huge. Which is like, if you looked at Falchion lists that weren't justice driven, like contractless Falchion, that deck was Phantasmal Ascendant, Witch, Institute. That was how that deck was winning, and that deck does not have a win con now. Like, they just were like, no. But it also hit, that line for a lot of decks. So if you weren't going to full ban Phantasmal, which it's strange to me that they didn't, these are the combination hits that I will take to accept Phantasmal existing for a little while longer. And that's my piece.
But not much longer.
They can't ban every single good red card. Yeah, I'm not even saying at this point that I think you have to ban Ascendant, because like I genuinely believe that Magic Stone Research Institute and Witch of the Fallen Kingdom are the ways that like tilted that card to just being too good, and like you have to let red have some fun toys. So I'm okay with it for right now. It's the best Cthulhu by far.
It is by far.
Hanzo, Ninja of the Moon plus Hologram of the Crimson Moon, because they don't want you drawing your whole deck at instant speed, which is fair. Or they don't want you drawing your whole deck for 1 will, which is fair. I'm just saying.
What will that you get to use over and over and over and over
to draw your whole deck? To draw your whole deck. It's fine.
Cool. Next turn I deck out. Cool.
Hey. Game. Anyway,
that's your win con.
He's a 3-month probation, and if he messes up, he's banned. Yeah. For sure.
Ooh.
That's last strike. Last strike.
1 more Magic Stone off of duty.
Iga Village of Assassins plus Rocket Dive, Pink Spider. This was not the combo I was expecting for Hyde, but it makes sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it's quite as deadly of a hit to the deck as people are making it out to be.
It's certainly not.
It's
certainly not. When I first made Hyde as a deck with 1 Rocket Dive, because that was our challenge at the time.
Yeah.
Like, I just went hard control, and Ego wasn't even that important of a piece. I just played hard control and then just played quick cast stuff. And so I think you could easily switch to that with 4 Rocket Dive in the deck, and you're still good to go.
Yeah.
Ego is a little busted of a card.
So the thing is, the other thing to think about is like there are other good cards that Hyde has that already had quick cast.
Yeah,
that you could just start making use. That you could just start making use of more. Like Kunai Throw, that card probably goes to being a 4 of, right? You're playing a little bit more chill, a little bit more laid back, and you can kind of lean into like this. Honestly, like the Sword of Progression build honestly kind of feels like the direction to go now. You just like tweak some of your stuff to have more like tool cards. Like Kunai Throw is a 2-for-1. You can rest one thing down when they go to attack with another thing, and then kill the thing they just attacked with. So you could pay 1 will and answer 2 attackers for a moment, right? Like they're, Rusty suddenly starts being popped up again, right? Whistling Summoning is suddenly starts getting used again. Like I think that there are ways that deck doesn't like already has good quick cast tools that it can make use of that are just fine. You just don't become you just take the deck away from being glowing spider control, and I think you're fine. So again, if we had more I think the 2 decks coming off of this ban list that like if I had time to build them before Worlds for the channel would be like Blue White Aristella and Hyde. Like those would be the decks that I'd be like, look at how these decks are still pretty good. Yeah.
Yes, that's right, Roderick. It does in fact also have quick cast.
Yeah.
In addition to its reveal effect.
Yep.
We forgot Eternal and Arcs Gears. Eternal Artificial Archipelago and the Gears Grail.
Yeah, that was did I miss that one? That one makes no sense to me other than to give the Grail so let me praise this. That one makes sense to me. Their reasoning in the paragraph down below does not make sense to me. Because they reference they don't want to have Eternal Archipelago protecting they don't want to have the interaction between Eternal Archipelago and Mythic. And Mythic doesn't care about barrier because Eternal doesn't give Eternal, it gives barrier.
If it did give it Eternal, does it? Because Mythic destroys itself.
Yeah, but if it had Eternal, it would like infinitely trigger of just like no.
Right.
But anyway, regardless, I still think having a free edition that gives the Chalice barrier right out the gate is probably not good for the game. So like, I'm okay with that combo ban. It's just their reasoning for it doesn't make sense in the chat, in the like page. But that's fine. Like the combo ban itself makes a lot of sense. And also the last one was Ainz plus Garfy, which thank God. I've seen some footage. I've seen some games of people playing before that was combo banned, and just like the amount of raw value that Green Ainz just got, like been playing that for Green Ainz control is like, oh, cool. No, thank you. I don't want that in my space. Please and thank you. So they just got rid of that. So I'm glad they hit that advance. You can still, interesting note, if you want to reveal something for Ainz, if you're playing green control, the library is a Gears and an attributed Gears, so you can give Ainz that ability to like tap, draw a card, discard a card. You just have to accept the fact that you have no graveyard for the game. But you have the gearification facility to be able to like call stone with him, tap him, recover him, like to be able to use that more often. So that is a neat tool that you can use for that. And quite honestly, Ainz didn't have any recursion from the graveyard anyway, so like him not having a graveyard kind of doesn't mean anything. Like stuff was getting killed and he was losing it forever, and he was like, that's fine, it's gone forever. So it's really like getting an extra draw per turn in exchange for losing a graveyard that you were never really interacting with anyway is not a big hit for Ainz. Like, man, that's fine. And then banish himself. Yeah.
That works. Why not?
Have a ruler banish itself. Let's freaking go. And yeah, that's the end of the list.
Yeah, fun list. Like I said, it reminds me of the 2005 ban list for Yu-Gi-Oh! In September, or actually back then it was October. Just nerfed so many different decks, and it was so fun to think about, like, what do I do now? And that was right before we went to the GX era, so like the game was still fun. Yeah, and in a lot of ways, this list just makes me super excited to see like kind of like what comes out of Worlds. And
Yeah.
then
This is this
again,
is a this is a list that's going to be very interesting to see what comes from Worlds.
yeah, and then again, just like what comes off. Like there's a couple of cards in here that do come off, I think, but for the most part, I'm not really
They said
sure
at
what
least
else.
10. They said at least 10 things.
You want to make your predictions?
Yeah, I can give you my 10.
Yeah.
Going through the combination ban list, I think Invitation to Valhalla and Brad gets unbanned. So that's one.
So
I
like combination
think
band and like banned list in
yeah. So
general.
they said 10 cards will be no longer banned / combination banned. So
Okay,
I'm assuming 10 from the whole list, right?
gotcha.
So to quickly go, I'm gonna do the combination ban list first, just real fast. Um, I think that um, Invitation to Valhalla certainly comes off. I think Machina plus Little Maria maybe comes off, especially since you don't have Painter's Gears anymore, but you still have a 0 cost search, so maybe not. But also, especially since there's probably also good that actually, I'm gonna rephrase that. I'm not gonna say that because you're probably about to have extension rule Alice cluster. So like the idea of Machina having Little Maria pay 0 search cast any card out of your deck when he's tagged with someone is a hard pass for me, dog. So sorry, let me rephrase myself there.
In
Um,
anticipation of the thing
in
we do not have
anticipation of
confirmation of.
that, yeah, we don't. Yeah, we don't. Zero. I have zero information of that. Like truly, look at me. I got nothing. Anyway,
Douche
I
conclave.
think, um, I honestly could see Atomic Bahamut and Atomic Turbulence coming unbanned at this point. We have a lot more stuff to be able to interact with Violet in a meaningful way, and I'm kind of like maybe that those get to come back. Like maybe. So that's 2. Brad plus Atomic Bahamut. Um, um, I don't think there's anything else on the combination ban list that I think comes off.
Hanzo Kaguya is the ultimate copium. I
It's
agree.
never coming off. That's never happening. Orb. I honestly at this point could see Change the World coming off.
Same.
So that's 3. True Blade.
True
That's
Blade.
4. True Blade. That's 4. Um,
Because like individual cards, these all seem like really solid. Like I don't know if I'd ever take any of these off at this point outside of
Law of
like
Silence. I think could come off.
probably.
Law of Silence. I think could probably come off because we have Silveria. So like Law of Silence probably gets to come off. That's 5.
Oh,
Without
antibodies in
Lycia.
blood. That's a good one.
Yeah, I could see Antibodies in Blood coming off. So that's 6. Um, if Melfi stays on, and the fact that Lycion is gone, and the fact that Sprinting Steward is gone, I think there's a world where Magical Dragon gets to come back. I'm not putting it on my list. I'm just putting it into the universe of like I think maybe there's a world where that comes back. Um, bum bum bum. That's 6. I'm only at 6.
Yeah.
I can't think of another. I can't like. People are gonna say Apollo, and I'm just like, I don't want. No, I don't want Apollo back.
Yeah. I could see it coming back. Someone said Conclave and Zooge. I can kind of see that because that card has like zero playability outside of
Do I think that
whatever
Electo
Logan
gets
loses.
to come back?
I wondered about that too. And I think if we get Electo back, we don't get Atomic Bahamut and
Oh yeah, for
Turbulence
sure,
back.
for sure.
Um,
That's fair. That's a fair trade.
not Sigurd. Stop. No.
He's banned in ABC. If a card is banned in ABC, it's never coming off the main red
No.
ban list. I think that's a. I think that's. Is that? Can we agree on that? If a card's on the ABC ban list, it's not coming off of this ban list.
Oh my
Um,
god.
True Blade for
Um,
sure. Wall of Wind, I don't think comes off.
Gwen and Dexia's advice.
Well, you did ban Aristella, so you did hard ban Aristella, so maybe.
I don't think Gretel's
Let's hope.
coming off because now we have yet another way of just searching out a human. I'm sorry, she's not a human. She's a fairy tale,
She's a
right?
human. She's human. She's
She's a
human
human
fairy
and a fairy
tale.
tale.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's that's not happening.
Lingering scent of a fairies makes me think that the change to lingering scent of the fairies honestly weirdly makes me think that we could bring Gretel back. The fact
I'd
that
be alright
lingering
with it.
got the fact that lingering got changed to be what it is now instead of just any rezo, honestly, maybe Gretel can come back. Because then you'd have to play the base like wind stones, right, as opposed to 4C stones. So like there is a downside in terms of stone building. So that's interesting. It's an interesting point.
Yeah, I think
I
we
don't
gotta
think
give Jordan something. I think we give him Gretel.
gotta give Jordan something.
You gotta give Jordan Gretel. If we can't give him
That's
Hanzo, we
fair.
should give him Gretel. Because maybe
Yeah,
then
fair. That's
Tag
fair.
RR is playable.
That's fair. Okay. Well, I mean, if we give Tag RR Orb, I think Tag RR is a lot better.
Yeah,
I
we need
also
to give him
think,
Orb and Gretel.
yeah, give them both. Okay. So we have a GP this weekend. Let's talk about it.
Sure.
Things that we expect to see. I don't. So let me put this here to Rustin's comment that she's here. Oh, we could bring cards back with erratas. Hard pass.
No, thank
Like
you.
I'm a proponent of like if a card has hit the ban list, you don't change its wording to bring it off the ban list. You just print a new card that has the effect that you feel is fair. Just print
Yeah.
a new card that you feel is like instead of bringing back Sigurd, bring us back a different thing that's close to Sigurd but feels more fair, right? It's not unban Hanzo. It's make something that's like Hanzo that's more fair, right? It's just simpler that way.
You can
That's my
start
2 cents.
errating cards when we get frequent reprint products, but we don't have that. So I
Yeah.
think before we get like really crazy with the erratas like we used to, we just ban things and then try again.
Yeah, ban them and then make it take 2 on a different rezo or a different spell later. Okay, so going into this weekend, I'm going to quickly go through a rundown of what I think is going to be to know about this weekend. First, Wild West format. So it's going to be all over the place. Second, it's not going to be streamed. Not day one, anyway. I'll be streaming top 8, but I have a previous engagement, so we won't be streaming it here. If someone else is, cool, but I've already let Games and Geek know that day one's not going to be streamed. So it's a little bit Wild West format. It's US only. It does come down to card access a little bit. Decks that I think, if I was walking into this weekend with only a week of testing after attending all the new cards, I personally would probably be playing Blue, White, Black Aristella with only 1 Moonchild or Killua Control. Or Killua Control.
Or Kilo Control.
Because that deck got no hits. That deck got 0 hits.
Zero hits.
The only thing that deck got hit was Phantasmal Ascendant and Magic Stone Research Institute, and quite frankly, we weren't even always using it.
Yeah.
So like I think I'd probably play Killua Control going into this weekend. That to me feels like the strongest. That to me feels like the widest amount of I have good practice on that deck, and I know it will have good matchups. That feels like a safe choice walking into a meta where people are going to be trying really goofy crap. The ability to stop your opponent from contracting seems pretty good.
Yeah, that seems amazing, to be frank. Killua, the aggro deck, is the ultimate like control deck, strangely. it's just so funny to me still.
Recon Rezard is pretty nutty with Olga, the Olga line.
That was a statement.
I think the new Aristella plus Child of the Crimson Moon might need a combo ban. 24 plus on turn 1 going first is a little much. Nope. Sorry. I could go on a rant for forever about how I think that there's so many outs to that in every single color of this format that as long as you're paying attention, you're not going to get cracked by that. And therefore, Aristella players aren't going to try to do that, which means it's not a threat. Sorry, that's my point. I am not worried about.
If Recon Rezard Olga is a deck, cool. I don't know anything about this until today. I didn't know anything about that deck until today. Liberator of Wind and Abdul. That's interesting.
Turn 1 Abdul Flip. I'm playing Brad Duel as a fun deck as well. The idea of like sticking the Brad Rezo and then hear me out. You
Okay.
think I'm crazy, but hear me out.
Oh, I don't think
I'm
you're
gonna
crazy. I just love the idea already.
I'm gonna stick a Brad. I'm gonna stick a Brad as playing as this control shell. I'm gonna play a single copy of Brad, and then at some point in time, I'm gonna cast a 3-cost card called Stories Told in 1001 Nights, and I'm gonna target my own Brad. And you're gonna go, well, that's weird. I'm gonna let that resolve. I'm like, cool, thanks. Remove all 4 copies of Brad from my deck, and then bring them back to my hand at the end of the turn. That's what I'm gonna do. They took away Invitation to Purgatory. Little do they know, I have a 3-cost version that can do the same thing, only when I'm playing Sherry. That's what I'm gonna do.
Moving on. We probably don't see Vega. Did we see Asuka start to creep back a little bit?
I think Burn Asuka certainly has some legs. The problem with Burn Asuka is that like she's gonna struggle hard against an early stuck Rumsfeld. Like if a protected Rumsfeld sticks early, she just can't kill it. And it's really hard for her. Because she doesn't get End of Night's Enter effect. So like she kind of needs that. She kind of needs that.
Yeah, she doesn't get sealed one-eyed anymore.
Yeah, she doesn't get sealed one-eyed anymore. And like her easiest way to kill it is Contract, which is pay 2, and then they just pay 1 and give it Barrier, and then it's like okay, whatever.
Rat.
Yeah, so like Asuka can struggle pretty hard against Rumsfeld. I do think that it's going to be a good environment. I think that players who are I think the thing that I think all players need to respect going into this environment is Crimson Wolf Aristella. Like I think you just have to respect that going into the environment, but I don't think it's like terrifying. Does that make sense? Like respectable, but as long as you're respecting it, it should be fine.
Yeah. Did we see? Well, I know we probably see Electra.
Yep.
But I'm not sure what else we see, really. Yeah, Olivia does have new stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
There is a lot of, like I will say this, going into this environment, what I expect is that I could not tell you if number of rulers you're using is an indicator of success this weekend with what we've seen in the environment. Like, okay. I think there are single ruler decks that are very good. I think that there are new and old tag ruler ideas that are very good, especially with the new extension ruler. I think that there are tri-ruler decks that are still very good. So I don't think necessarily out of gate number of rulers you're playing plays a big impact on your success rate this weekend.
Fair enough.
There you go.
Yeah, starting to see the trade-off of contracts a little bit more with all of these different bands.
Yeah. Ironically, though, you can play a 2... Aristella went from being a 3-ruler deck to a 2-ruler deck. So, like, see what I mean about not number of rulers not being indicative of your success rate? I mean,
I see what you did there.
Hey.
5 ruler gears. Let's go.
Yeah, I'd argue that there's another number of single ruler decks that have an opening after this ban list for sure. Isis, like Rune Isis. I think Olivia, Wolfgang. That's something people need to understand. Wolfgang 2 can just kill you. Because you know what we got? A card that can pay for his activate ability by discarding it out of your hand in the form of Moo Tribe Researcher. So that's the thing.
What a world.
What a world.
What a world we live in.
I think, Roderick, that is a very good point. Underestimating a single ruler deck will get you faded for sure. Like I said, I do not think you can... I would expect the top 8 to be a very healthy mix of 1, 2, and 3 rulers. And I think if that's the case, when I come in to commentate top 8, if I look at the end of the day of top 8 lists and it's 1 ruler decks, 2 ruler decks, and 3 ruler decks, then the mission, although it is first GP and only a week post-release, I think already the environment is speaking to what the company is trying to create, right? Already
Yeah.
out the gate, you can see like this is what we're trying to create in the environment. So let's talk about here's an idea. Paul, I already said I'd probably be playing blue, white, black, Aristella, or Killua control. Paul, what would you be playing this weekend if you were playing anything?
Well, I think Roderick just made a really good point about how Isis is. I'm sorry, not Isis. Olivia is really well
Olivia?
positioned.
Sure.
And so I would be hard pressed to play Olivia, honestly.
Okay.
Is
That's
this
fair.
even a question? Like you already knew this question was getting answered
That's
this
fair.
week.
That's fair. I mean,
Whole
I
chat
respect
knew
it.
this. Um,
Respect it. 100%. 100%.
yeah, that or Electra. New Olivia.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of really fun stuff. I let me talk about this. To end it here. In your mind, what are the 3 cards that players should, without a doubt, be bringing into their sideboards going into this weekend?
Ooh. Number one, very clearly Rumsfeld.
Sure.
I think that has a very strong place
Sure.
in the sideboard now. Um, Gosh, I haven't needed a sideboard in so long.
Well, you and I don't play in tournaments,
Yeah,
so we
I
like.
don't play sideboards at locals. Um, there's the new white spell that if you're really worried about Hyde, or any deck that just draws a crap ton of cards, that just gets cheaper and
Sure.
redirects the draw effect. I think it's the new Eternal card.
Yeah.
People are saying Steven's saying Gradius. I mean, like, why not? I mean, Gradius is always a good card. He's always been a good card.
Yeah, I think to me, my like 3 cards that I would bring into this environment, like saying like you should absolutely make room for them in your board, is I think Parry, I think Lightning Cave, and I think
Lightning Cave.
and I think Gradius. I'm not saying Rumsfeld because I think Rumsfeld is like an obvious thing. Like
Sure.
it's not the card that I'm just like. I think if you play white, you're playing at least 2 Rumsfelds in the sideboard. Like you just should, right? That just seems like a good decision. But
So you're saying 4, but I'm not going to say Rumsfeld out loud.
I'm
Got it.
saying 3. I'm saying 3 because Rumsfeld feels like an auto include, like meta
Yeah.
regardless. Does that make
Gotcha.
sense?
Yeah.
Specifically, I'm saying cards that I think people need to bring in for the environment we are walking into of this weekend. I think Lightning Cave, I think I think Parry, and I think Gradius. Like those are the 3 cards that I think absolutely should be in people's boards. Death Scythe 1.0, that's also a very good tech to stop J rulers from having swiftness. That's a really good idea. Lightning Cave or Death Scythe 1.0, both of those could fall into that same line.
One is free.
Especially if you're really concerned about Little Red. So
Interesting. So folks are really expecting Aristella to make a new Aristella 2 to make an appearance. Okay.
America. First
America.
week post GP, red stuff go burr. Gradius is really good in that matchup.
Yeah, I agree.
J Ruler hate. Yeah, I mean, we're already playing it. Falling through the cracks. Interesting.
Someone said that, and I was interested. Rod said that.
Yeah, I'm not. I guess I could see that as a way to stop the wolf from Aristella, right? When they try to like cheat it in.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe, but I also think that like if I've got Parry, and I've got like the spot removal I'm already playing, and I've got Lightning Cave, it feels like I'm kind of already covering that base. So I don't know if I necessarily feel that way, especially since I also am playing, most of the people are going to be playing Persephone's mainboarded, and then you can just remove the wolf from the graveyard, which is very helpful. Yeah, players were already going to play red stuff go burr. Yeah, you're not wrong.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Overall, I'm excited. Multi-ruler decks to counter Rumsfeld. That's it. Yeah, no, that's an idea. That's for sure. Overall, I'm excited. Like I do think. I mean, I've played some games in this environment. I've seen some cool stuff be built. I've had some really fun games. I've seen people have cool back and forths. I've seen players who have hyper fixated on the fact that Aristella can put out a whole bunch of damage really early, and they're like, this is so good. And I'm like, yeah, but it's not actually going to win you tournaments. It's going to win you games as long as you're like, it's going to win you games, but not matches as long as you're playing against good people. And it's certainly not going to win you tournaments. You can't just like go burr all the time. Like, this is the environment to try to go burr, but the good players at the top tables aren't going to let you just go burr. It's just not going to happen. Especially going burr that requires like will and like proper sequencing that costs you cards and not just, oops, my life is 2,000. Just saying. But I look forward to commentating the top 8. It's going to be good. No feature match this week because I haven't recorded anything with the new cards yet. But starting next week, we'll be back. We'll be leading up to Worlds to have content leading up all the way into Worlds. And I'm going to... I don't know how likely it is, but mainly just because of how the landscape of forcible content creators has changed. But we might be hosting a guest week while I'm at Worlds so that you have content while I'm traveling to Japan. So if you're interested in doing a guest week spot, Rustin, you're in the chat. Rustin.
Summoning Rusted.
Summoning Rustin.
A2 summon Rustin.
Rustin, please report to the principal's office. We can talk about the idea of having some guest week content to host here in the channel while we are at Worlds, because obviously I'm not going to post anything. I'm going to be in Japan. So that's it for us for tonight. As always, go ahead and check the links in the description below to do all the cool stuff we mentioned at the top of the video. And until next time, I've been DMO73, joined by Paul Reisman.
My cat left me.
Class dismissed.